His appalled staff made hasty preparations. Messengers jaunted ahead to warn the Precision offices across the country, and the private jaunt stages were cleared. Precision was ushered to the stage within his New York office. It was a circular platform in a black-hung room without windows, a masking and concealment necessary to prevent unauthorized persons from discovering and memorizing coordinates. For the same reason, all homes and offices had one-way windows, and confusion labyrinths behind their doors. To jaunt, it was necessary, among other things, for a man to know exactly where he was and where he was going, or there was little hope of arriving anywhere alive. It was as impossible to jaunt from an undetermined starting point as it was to arrive at an unknown destination. Like shooting a pistol, one had to know where to aim and which end of the gun to hold. But a glance through a window or door might be enough to enable a man to memorize the LES coordinates of a place. Precision stepped on the stage, visualized the coordinates of his destination in the Philadelphia office, seeing the picture clearly and the position accurately. He relaxed and energized one concentrated thrust of will and belief towards the target. He jaunted. There was a dizzy moment in which his eyes blurred. The New York stage faded out of focus. The Philadelphia stage blurred into focus. There was a sensation of falling down and then up. He arrived. Blackrod and others of his staff arrived a respectful moment later. So in jaunts of 1 and 200 miles each, Precision crossed the continent and arrived outside the Vancouver shipping yards at exactly 9 o'clock in the morning, Pacific time. He had left New York at 11 a.m. He had gained 2 hours of daylight. This, too, was commonplace in the jaunting world. The square mile of unfenced concrete, what fence could bar a jaunter, looked like a white table covered with black pennies, nearly arranged in concentric circles. But on closer approach, the pennies enlarged into 100-foot mouths of black pits, dug deep into the bowels of the earth. Each circular mouth was rimmed with concrete buildings, offices, check rooms, canteens, changing rooms. These are the takeoff and landing pits, the dry dock and construction pits of the shipyards. Spaceships, like sailing vessels, were never designed to support their own weight unaided against the drag of gravity. Normal terrain gravity would crack the spine of a spaceship like an eggshell. The ships were built in deep pits, standing vertically in a network of catwalks and construction grids, braced and supported by anti-gravity screens. They took off from similar pits, riding the anti-grav beams upward like motes mounting the vertical shaft of a searchlight, until at last they reached the Roche limit and could thrust with their own jets. Landing spacecraft cut drive jets and rode the same beams downward into the pits. As the Precision entourage entered the Vancouver yards, they could see which of the pits were in use. From some, the noses and holes of the spaceships extruded, raised a quarter-way or halfway above ground by the anti-grav screens as workmen in the pits below brought their aft sections to particular operational levels. 3 Precision V-class transports, Vega, Vestal, and Vorga, at the concrete building marked Entry, the Precision entourage stopped before a sign that read, "You are endangering your life if you enter these premises unlawfully. You have been warned." Visitor badges were distributed to the party, and even Precision of Precision received a badge. He dutifully pinned it on, for he well knew what the result of entry without such a protective badge would be. The entourage continued, winding its way through pits until it arrived at 03, where the pit mouth was decorated with bunting in the Precision colors, and a small grandstand had been erected. Precision was welcomed, and in turn greeted his various officials. The Precision band struck up the clan song, bright, arid, brassy, but one of the instruments appeared to have gone insane. It struck a brazen note that blared louder and louder until it engulfed the entire band and the surprised exclamations. Only then did Precision realize that it was not an instrument sounding, but the shipyard alarm. An intruder was in the yard, someone not wearing an identification or visitor's badge. The radar field of the protection system was tripped, and the alarm sounded. Through the raucous bellow of the alarm, Precision could hear a multitude of pops as the yard guards jaunted from the grandstand and took position around the square mile of the concrete field. His own jaunt watch closed in around him, looking wary and alert. A voice began blaring on the PA, coordinating defense. "Unknown in yard! Unknown in yard at E for Edward 9! E for Edward 9! Moving west, on foot!" Someone must have broken in, Blackrod shouted. I'm aware of that, Prestigian answered calmly. He must be a stranger if he's not jaunting in here. I'm aware of that also. Unknown, approaching D for David 5. D for David 5. Still on foot. D for David 5. Alert. What in God's name is he up to? Blackrod exclaimed. You are aware of my rules, sir, Prestigian said coldly. No associate of the Prestigian clan may take the name of the divinity in vain. You forget yourself. Unknown, now approaching C for Charlie 5. Now approaching C for Charlie 5. Blackrod touched Prestigian's arm. He's coming this way, Prestigian. Will you take cover, please? I will not. Prestigian, there have been assassination attempts before. 3 of them. How do I get to the top of this stand? Prestigian, help me up. Aided by Blackrod, still protesting hysterically, Prestigian climbed to the top of the grandstand to watch the power of the Prestigian clan in action against danger. Below, he could see workmen in white jumpers swarming out of the pits to watch the excitement. Guards were appearing as they jaunted from distant sectors towards the focal point of the action. Unknown moving south toward B for Baker 3. B for Baker 3. Precision watched the B3 pit. A figure appeared, dashing swiftly towards the pit, veering, dodging, bullying his way forward. It was a giant man in hospital blues, with a wild thatch of black hair and a distorted face that appeared in the distance to be painted in livid colors. His clothes were flickering like heat lightning as the protective induction field of the defense system seared him. B for Baker 3, alert! B for Baker 3, close in! There were shouts and a distant rattle of shots, the pneumatic whine of scope guns. 6 workmen in white leaped for the intruder. He scattered them like 9-pins and drove on and on towards B3, where the nose of Vorka showed. He was a lightning bolt, driving through workmen and guards, pivoting, bludgeoning, boring forward implacably. Suddenly, he stopped, reached inside his flaming jacket, and withdrew a black canister. With a convulsive gesture of an animal writhing in death throes, he bit the end of the canister and hurled it, straight and true, on a high arc towards Vorga. The next instant, he was struck down. Explosive! Take cover! Explosive! Take cover! Explosive! Take cover! Prestigian! Blackrod squawked. Prestigian shook him off and watched the canister curve up and then down towards the nose of the Vorga, spinning and glinting in the cold sunlight. At the edge of the pit, it was caught by the anti-grav beam and flicked upwards as if by a giant invisible thumbnail. Up and up and up it whirled, 100, 500, 1,000 feet. Then there was a blinding flash, and an instant later, a titanic clap of thunder that smote ears and jarred teeth and bone. Prestigian picked himself up and descended the grandstand to the launching podium. He placed his finger on the launching button of the Prestigian Princess. Bring me that man if he's still alive, he said to Blackrod. He pressed the button. I christen thee the Prestigian Power, he called in triumph.